Hello, Ben.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing, Chezi?
I am doing well, thank God.
How are you getting accustomed to your new location?
The new place. Yeah, like I said, I'm quite used to this place, so it's not so strange. But yeah, I mean, now I know that the neighbor upstairs, the couple, well, not a couple anymore, it's just an old lady. She listens to the TV extremely loud.
Yeah.
Like over the top loud, and I understand that she's deaf. Yeah, so I'm just gonna suck it up, I guess. No. So yeah, so that was a little surprise. Other little things like that, but I honestly am there's like a lot of work, thank God, going on right now, and with the move, I'm also like I'm touching up my old place. I'm still dealing with the new place, so there's a lot going on. So it's very hectic days, hectic weeks. Actually, I would say probably like hectic months ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you got back into the groove a little bit, so I guess
I feel like after the Chagim, October time, something like that, I'll probably be like landing back into like a more normal like setting. It's not so far.
No.
So that's good. I had some argument, one, not some, with my partner, my business partner. So that was not fun. I mean, in retrospect, ultimately, I think it allows for growth, but never fun.
Can be draining.
I'm sorry?
Can be draining.
Yeah, it could be draining. I mean, I love him very much. So our part of our discussion also was, we are more than friends, but less than friends now, because like we are we've been friends since for the last 20 years, and we've been business partners for 10 years. And so like, I don't know if anyone knows me really much better than him. On the other hand, though, like we don't hang out anymore. Like I'm never going to get a beer with him again. I don't drink, but like we're never going to go watch a movie again or go to do something. It's because like when the day is done, he's like, I don't need to see you again. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think about that. So that was a little sad, as I sort of brought that up in the conversation. But again, I'm very, very fortunate that I have a loving friend and partner with me. So where we could talk that out, we could have that kind of conversation, hear each other. Excuse me, they're just protesting the government. 1 minute. Sir, man, maybe Jacob sent him. All right. Hey, Kirk.
Hey, I got here right on time.
Oh.
Right on time. Yeah, we were just about to start, and I know you like reading.
Yeah, I'll read the English after you read the Hebrew, if that's okay. And we're still in chapter 6.
We're still in chapter 6. There's 3 more or 4 more sub-chapters, and we will be done.
So this should be about 4 more weeks, about another month before done?
Well, it depends how much we get done today. I don't know if we'll do 1 or 2.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, there's 3 more, so yeah.
Yeah, so I would say either it would be 2 or 3 weeks, something like that.
Okay. Do you want me to read it, Chezi?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, the Hebrew. We're at Mishnah 9, Tet. Amar Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma. פעם אחת הייתי מהלך בדרך, הוא פגע בי אדם אחד, ונתן לי שלום, והחזרתי לו שלום. אמר לי, רבי, מאיזה מקום אתה? אמרתי לו, מעיר גדולה של חכמים ושל סופרים אני. אמר לי, רבי, רצונך שתדור עמנו במקומנו, ואני אתן לך 1,000 דינרי זהב ואבנים טובות ומרגליות. אמרתי לו, אם אתה נותן לי כל כסף וזהב ואבנים טובות ומרגליות שבעולם, איני דר אלא במקום תורה. וכן כתוב בספר תהילים על ידי דוד מלך ישראל, טוב לי תורת פיך מאלפי זהב וכסף. ולא עוד, אלא שבשעת פטירתו של אדם אין מלווין לו לאדם לא כסף ולא זהב ולא אבנים טובות ומרגליות, אלא תורה ומעשים טובים בלבד, שנאמר, בהתהלכך תנחה אותך, בשכבך תשמור עליך, והקיצות היא תשיחך. בהתהלכך תנחה אותך בעולם הזה, בשכבך תשמור עליך בקבר, והקיצות היא תשיחך לעולם הבא. ואומר לי הכסף ולי הזהב, נאום אדוני צבאות.
Very nice.
A pretty long one?
Well, the verses always make it longer.
Yeah.
So said Rabbi...
But we'll see.
Said Rabbi Yossi, the son of Kisma, once I was traveling and I encountered a man. He greeted me and I returned his greetings. Said he to me, Rabbi, where are you from? Said I to him, from a great city of sages and scholars am I. Said he to me, Rabbi, would you like to dwell with us in our place? I'll give you 1,000,000 dinars of gold, precious stones, and pearls. Said I to him, if you were to give me all the silver, gold, precious stones, and pearls in the world, I would not dwell anywhere but in a place of Torah. Indeed, so is written in the book of Psalms by David, the king of Israel. I prefer the Torah of your mouth over thousands in gold and silver. Psalms 119:72. Furthermore, when a person passes from this world, neither silver nor gold nor precious stones nor pearls accompany him, only Torah and good deeds. As is stated, Proverbs 6:22. When you go, it will direct you. When you lie down, it will watch over you. And when you awaken, it shall be your speech. When you go, it will direct you. In this world, when you lie down, it will watch over you. In the grave. And when you awaken, it shall be our speech in the world to come. Also it says, Haggai 2:8, mine is the silver and mine is the gold. So says the Lord of hosts.
You got all that, Kirk?
Yeah, it's a bit heavy, right. But...
Awesome. Okay, so Rabbi Chezi ben Kisma. Trying to think of the things that are famous about him, but this is again.
He was at Tanai?
Yeah, the Tana, third generation Tana. This is during the Roman period. Famously, he has a relationship. He's close with Rabbi Hanania ben Tradion, who is one of the 10 martyrs that gets killed.
In the Bar Kokhba.
Correct. I'm saying, post, and then also Rabbi Akiva is also, of course, he's also one of the 10 martyrs that's killed, and he actually had pretty close relations with Rome. Chezi ben Kisma.
He was honored by the Romans.
Yeah, there's a spooky story that basically Rabbi Hanania ben Tardion is very upset about the Roman regime, understandably so. But Rav Kisma, he's sort of like a Nachum Ish Gamzu. His attitude, he's an optimist, or at least he's looking at things from a meta perspective and saying, listen, if their reign holds right now, this is all from God, right? So, who are we to to fight against this? And they call each other out, and he lets him know, he lets Hanania ben Tradion says, with your attitude, you're going to end up getting killed. And then lo and behold, he does actually get killed. Well, what's even more ironic is at the funeral of Rabbi Kisma, it's said that all the Roman the Roman legions, or the greats of Rome, all the celebrities came to the funeral, and at that moment they also rounded up some of the people. They took Hanania ben Tradion and things like that. So
sounds like a scene from The Godfather a little bit.
Yeah, it was a complicated relationship. But first of all, the whole story itself is very peculiar, the way it's written. And there's a lot of things that you notice here that are sort of, we're getting answers, but we're not necessarily getting answers to the things we asked. So first off, it's Pa'am Achat, Haiti Mehalech, right? So only once. So there's an interpretation that says it's a sign that Rabbi Chezi ben Kisma wouldn't do often. He wasn't out and about going on strolls. Rather, he was someone that was very much in Tveria, in the study hall, studying the most of the day. And so the Pam Achat is to let you know that this is not something that's happening so often. Obviously, there's a reading over here which just says once, but the attitude is more about the stressing of the once. There's another thing that we could notice over here, which we also saw about the blessing of the tree, which is mehalech baderech and not holech baderech. Holech would be walking, and that's a sense where you are focused on the walking right now, and that's what you're doing. Mehalech is your body is moving, but your mind is in other places. Your mind is still in the study hall. Your mind is still learning, is still contemplating.
So like thinking and walking at the same time.
Correct. So you're in motion, but you could still be, his body might be in place X, but his mind is still back at home.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that's oftentimes I do sort of think and talk to myself and contemplate if I'm ever going on a walk, and just it's a habit of mine.
Right. So you're more like moving, less walking. Walking would be what I'm doing is walking. Moving would be I happen to be walking, but that's just something that's happening right now. My mind is doing something else.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like a meditative contemplation, or
right. Exactly. That's a good way to phrase it. So it's letting us know that first it was once, right? And so he's not usually leaving, and when he's leaving, he doesn't leave the dojo, right? The dojo is still with him in his head. But Ben, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, there's two stories that relate to it. One is from the magic book. One is I have a friend that just related a story to me. When he went to yeshiva, he was talking about his Rosh Yeshiva and how the Rosh Yeshiva would be so engrossed in thoughts, like he would be kind of a person. He was so engrossed in thoughts that when you talk to you, he would push against you, because he wouldn't. It's better when
you're aware of the social distancing.
So the people had to always push him back up. So he was saying that was like a funny interaction, because he was just talking about the Rosh Yeshiva. He was such a deep thinker that he would he would always walk in that word. He would talk also in that way. Mm-hmm. And also something interesting from Midrash Shmuel here that adds a little bit to this. It says that, like you said, Rabbi Yossi is so engrossed that it also says Natan li shalom. It says that this person greeted him, but obviously,
and Rav Yossi doesn't greet him.
Right. Yeah. So otherwise, if Rabbi Yossi was actually going and he would have paid attention, he would greet him, because this is also a dictum that we have, right, to greet first every person.
Right. So Kirk, you hear the clarification that Ben is making over here?
Yeah, that's understandable. And do you believe it's more common among males or like men and boys and females, like women and girls? Because I've heard Jordan Peterson say, generally speaking, males are more interested in ideas and women are more interested in people. So do you believe men who have sort of time alone with themselves are more likely to think introspectively than vice versa, or with women?
No, I mean, we just think that women are just looking out, thinking nothing. No, I would say they're probably being introspective in a different way, thinking of things and looking at things differently, and that's why we also complete each other, and that's why Ezer Kenegdo, help against it, opponent processing.
Right. The salience is different for men and women, and then the way maybe that right. So when you walk in the street, when you're a woman, when you walk the street, you have very different considerations.
But together, man and woman make one sane person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, ideally, when we, like God, if we could retract from ourselves and leave space to sort of imagine having a little feminine mind palace in your head, right? Understanding how a woman would think. And this is also what we're being told to do when we're also studying, right? Which is, or like Hillel would do, which is first he would give the opinion of Shammai and then he would give his own opinion, right? Steel manning. So that would be true that we should always be doing that. You don't have to be walking down the street and be thinking to yourself, what does a child think? What does a child in a wheelchair think? Right? You could cast a net that's wide enough, but you should be definitely, depending on the context, you should take notice. So if you're going into a room, Kirk, that's just men, there's obviously going to be a different set of goggles or operating system you're using if you're going in there and it's a mixed view, or you're going in there if there's little children over there. So we obviously need to make sure.
Or if I go in just women.
I'm sorry?
Or if I go in just women, it's different.
And if you go into just women, you might want to stop, go out and be like, hey, I didn't notice where I was walking into. It's the women's room. Okay. Okay, so upagabi adam echad, right? So suddenly pagabi. So notice it didn't say that nifgash im adam echad, or meets one guy. That it's encountered. It's like vayivga bo malach Elohim, as we see also when we're reading about Jacob. So there's like this sudden encounter, and that is why some, while we could leave this in the level of it's just a man that is talking to him, the fact that he has no name and we use the word paga, some people interpret this as this is an angel, or this is Elijah coming to sort of meet him and test him, right? Mm-hmm. To see like this is all happening sort of within, and Elijah could also be something that's happening psychologically. That doesn't make it not divine or true. I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily have to be someone in front of him, which would also lead to why he doesn't say hi first, because there's no one actually in front of him. Mm-hmm. Right? The only hi happens suddenly when he hears the voice, when he's encountered with it. That's one interpretation. Another interpretation is that, that this guy is that the guy suddenly comes out of nowhere, and like it didn't seem like he was planning on talking to him, but suddenly he's caught off guard, so to speak. Right. So these are two different ways of seeing to understand pagabi and natan le shalom ve'achzarti lo shalom. All right. Amar li Rabbi, me'eze makom ota, right? So first of all, notice that he identifies him as a rabbi, right? Mm-hmm. So it was also that would be indicating that he is either he sees him, like we said, immersed in learning, right? So he sees him walking around mumbling to himself, or looking up at the sky trying to figure out some sort of equations, or he's wearing some sort of garb that makes it clear that he's a rabbi, right? So either he has his fringes, or he has his turbans, or
maybe he has a long pants.
Yeah, that wasn't so. I mean, not the way you see it today. That wasn't really the culture as much. But sure, I mean, but that could also just be a Jew, an observant Jew, right? We're saying he calls him rabbi, right?
Did they have payot in Talmudic times?
No, there were. I'm just saying it wasn't only rabbis that had them, and they weren't as. You're talking about also a lot of hair, turbans. I don't know if it would be as clear seeing them as like you would see like an ultra Orthodox.
I'm talking specifically about the curls that are like wrapped behind the ear, stuff.
I wouldn't be able to tell you. I mean, and maybe there is information out there. I don't know like what the style choice at the time was. Like if they were like using some wax to keep it back, or doing anything like that. So
we definitely need to keep. Some periods like you can't write, so that's the halacha.
And this reminds us, right, of the beggars, the people out there in the street, the people that need us. Just like we have the pe'ah on the fields, right, that we leave a portion of the fields uncut when we're harvesting, so the poor could then come and take some of it. And just having this down also reminds us constantly to be aware socially of what's going on around us. So it's It's a very, very important thing. Anyways, so he recognizes that he's a rabbi, and he's identifying this. And what's interesting, though, that he doesn't ask him for his name. He doesn't say like, "Who are you?" He says, "Where are you from?" And then what's even more interesting is Rav Yossi's answer doesn't even. He doesn't mention his own name. He's like, "Well, my name's Rav Yossi B." He doesn't even tell him where he's from. He just answers him, "Amarti lo me'ir gdola shel chachamim v'shel sofrim ani." I'm from a great town of wise men and scribes, right? So this again we'll give different levels of interpretation, but one of them goes back to alluding to this conversation that's happening with Elijah, right? Where like, or happening inside, where certain details what we would think would be important if we're talking to a stranger are not actually necessary, right? Because those things we know. It's almost like when Jacob tells the angel, like, what's my name? Give me a blessing. I can't give me a blessing. Like, it's all a conversation that it doesn't really make sense necessarily, but it does make sense in the context if you're having it with yourself.
Right. It's kind of like it's like a scene of a vision of some sort. So
right. Again, according to that interpretation.
Right.
Amagli,
It does say in terms of a context about Yossi that he was he was capable of performing miracles. So he was this kind of miraculous person, right? So there was apparently there are different stories of him performing miracles. So
does it mention to you what miracle?
Well, one of them here, if I can abbreviate it. So there was a Roman that kidnapped two Jewish children, and they asked Rabbi Yossi to help. So he made this person sick, have excruciating pain and fever and stuff like that. And then,
where does it say this? Does it quote this for you?
Let's see. Yeah, Shabbat.
Shabbat where?
152.8. Wait, no. Wait, no, sorry. My bad. Midrash David. Okay. Also cited in Sefer HaMusar and Menorat HaMeor. So not Shabbat.
Okay. That makes a little more sense. Okay, interesting. So he was a miracle worker. So I mean, you're saying this connects to potentially this is like a vision. He's like a mystical man. I appreciate that.
Could I ask?
Sure, Kirk. Not only can you, you're welcome to.
It's not as relevant, but it's a question I was asked by an atheist person, and I would like to know what the traditional Orthodox Jewish response is. Basically, they were arguing that it's not only not probable that a God exists, but it's literally impossible because the law of identity basically says A is A. So like a glass of water is water. But because in the religious narrative, God created the universe ex nihilo, right? God created the universe out of nothing. That's a violation of the law of identity because you're basically saying it could come into being, like its identity could come into being out of nothing, which they said was impossible. Like, how would I respond to that?
So, not to get too deep into this. I mean, first of all, obviously there's only so much we could comprehend as humans. That's number one. Number two, I would just say that we are told that first of all, there's Kabbalistic teaching that God uses like wisdom to first build, and that's why like everything afterwards starts with wisdom and has a wisdom to it, and has like there's a logic to it, but that God looked at the Torah, Histakel ba'oraita ve'bara alma. He looked at the Torah and he created the world. And the sense is the undergirding.
But God created the Torah.
I'm sorry?
But didn't God create the Torah?
God also created the Torah, obviously, yes.
But they would say that's like creation ex nihilo, right?
That's what they would say. But that's that is a much deeper conversation, a larger conversation to have about like how you want to explain that, where like you'll feel confident with answers to speak back to your friends, more than just one answer. But specifically to the comment of like it's starting from nothing, so that's not undergirding. There's no, let's say, morals undergirding it. So the idea that the Torah is the blueprint of the experience we have here, that would be that there's like these undergirding pinnings. Now you'd be like, but what's that? Obviously, that is a manifestation and a certain manifestation of God's will, right? And then you'd be like, but what does that mean? So that's a longer conversation. But that, I mean, we believe, and we believe that God manifesting his Torah, and as well, it's not only also about doing good things and being good people. There are other wisdoms out there in the world that teach people how to be good people and how to be moral people, right? We also say derech eretz kadma Torah, right? That I know that contradicts the first thing I said, but play with me for a second. The derech eretz itself, being there's these moral laws that are also that the Torah stems out of, but ultimately the Torah is here to teach us to be holy. That's
Yeah,
science.
I mean, I agree with all this as a statement of faith, but it's not about morals. It's just, unless you're saying a rock can just be created out of nothing, in which case you're saying something can come from nothing,
Yeah.
then like at that point, they would just argue that
Something could come from nothing that you as a human categorize as nothing. That doesn't mean it's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no, I mean, in the teachings and the way that we try to understand ex nihilo versus all other creation, ex nihilo, that creation is the only, that act that God did is the only instance that we have of that, and even that is something that we don't really have an understanding of what it is exactly. Just trying to,
But like I said, Kirk, we could dive into that. We're going to continue.
I would agree with you guys, because I do believe, as a matter of faith, that God is all powerful. It's just, I'm just looking for, like, if I'm ever in a conversation with somebody who's anti-religious, not just not religious, but anti-religious.
Just give him a hug.
Give him a hug.
Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, it's not that you can't. It's not that you can't argue with them. First, I'll remind you what Masechet Megillah, Tractate Megillah says. It says, "Kol hakofer be'avodah zara nikra Yehudi." Anyone that denies idol worship is called a Jew, right? So even the atheists today, they're basically there. They already removed all these masks of the sun god and the moon god and all those stuff. And so now they're stuck with one other mask. They're still looking at God under his name Elohim and seeing him only through nature. And it's hard for them to pierce through and see the tetragrammaton. And sometimes it's life experience, sometimes it's learning, sometimes it's a conversation with a good friend. But my point would be, like, even if you're looking at them like, oh, these souls, like, don't worry, they're almost over there. God is understanding. But again, Kirk, as far as like getting to like, I want to have like my go-to answers to tell someone, there's answers like that. I don't know if one of those answers just flips someone immediately. That's like my experience.
Yeah, like also, I mean, like, you have to maybe think about how useful are theoretical discussions versus showing what something like this kind of belief can do for you, right? So leading by example, right? So there's diminishing returns in like having all these philosophical discussions versus actually being nice to your parents, being nice to your friends, doing nice things, educating yourself, all that kind of stuff. So
to be fair, Ben, at Kirk's age right now, this is the time to have conversations like this. So like, if your buddy wants to have these conversations with you, then like, that's great. I'm not telling you like 1 hour a day and like that's it. So like, you could do that. I would just say it's not always healthy to be in this mindset all the time. Mm-hmm. Right? Let your brain do other stuff. Enjoy some of this world, as they say, touching grass. I also want to respond to our good friend Barzuk Kadir. I don't know if he was here last time or not, but Barzuk, I hope you're doing well. He wants to let us know that the Jews are the bastards, okay? And we should just capitalize that J in the front. Jews are the devil's chosen bastards, okay, gotcha. And Jews are ready to sell their mothers for a penny. So, Barzuk, I hope you're doing well. If by Jews you mean like Hebrews, I guess you're differentiating them. I don't see myself as a Jew. I see myself as a Hebrew. Jew is one of the names that people have given me in the past. But I see myself a Hebrew like Abraham. So, and Abraham is already considered a Muslim, and that's before the Quran, right? So I guess I'm also a Muslim in that case. So I don't know if that really works out so well. So here, you're watching Muslims right now learning and trying to understand the Torah so they could connect to Allah better. If you'd like to partake in that and listen, you're of course welcome. You might be a little confused though, but as Ishmael laughed and Isaac laughed, we are welcome to laugh together with you here. So we're glad you're here, and I hope you and your family are doing well. All right, onwards. Where were we? He said, all right, he gives him this weird answer. Right? He doesn't really give him like this response. Amar li, he responds back to him, Rebbe, right? We don't even care about the name anymore. We've concluded that he's a Rebbe. רצונך שתדור עמנו במקומנו, ואני אתן לך 1,000 דינרי זהב ואבנים טובות ומרגליות, right? I'm giving him, how much did they say was over here? $1,000,000. Serious cash money over here. Millions of dinars, gold, precious stones, and pearls. So, by the way, this is also very strange. First off, right, we have no name. We don't know the name of the place. This guy comes smack down with huge sums of money. First of all, what if Rav Yossi would come? Right? What if he's down to come? Like he didn't even there's like sort of he's not even responding to him that I don't want to come. Maybe he'll be like, that's great. He's already offering him all this money. And it's just strange that he felt like he has to jump into that. And then he goes into this level of giving explanations, right? So he really tries to, I think we could identify 3 different elements over here. One is Shetaduri Manu, right? So this is come live among, like man is also as far as the plural, among the people with us over here. You're going to enlighten us with your wisdom and you could share your Torah knowledge with us. And that's why you're benefiting the many, right? So this is like the Imanu. I'm letting you know that there's a lot of people around me. You could benefit them. So that's one win on your end. The second one is Bim Komenu, right? In our place. So here we need to look at this like historically. One is theologically in our place, as in we are settled. We're people that know who we are and know what we want. So you're not coming to people that are confused. You're coming to a place where it's like ready to accept you. There's another understanding, which is during the rebellion, this is a place that is safe. You don't have to be worried about the Romans trying to get you, or like, because there was you weren't allowed to teach Torah. Obviously, Rabbi Akiva gets arrested. People get into trouble for this, right? So he's saying this is a place, B'mkomenu, us, like unlike the other places, you'll be safe over here. And there's one more, or there could be others in your books. I remember another interpretation, which is, and this relates back to his relationship with Rome, which is this guy is telling him, come B'mkomenu, Mkomenu is Rome. Come to Rome where you'll be fully protected. And I can give you the gold and the jewels. And then the mindset is sort of, because we're going to see in a moment when he tells them, I don't want to move there. I'm not interested. It could be that I'm friendly with Rome, but I'm not interested in being in Rome. That's too far away from where I want to be. Right. So the third one, where we said, Shedaduri Manu B'mkomenu V'ani Eten Lach. The third one is actually what I'm giving him. Right. So now we're talking about like all the serious money. And this is an indication. If you remember, Ben, we've spoken many times about how the rabbis allude to the city or the community sort of paying or sponsoring the Torah learners, right? And we have different psukim letting those people know that that's what they should be doing. And right, one of the interpretations of the tomchim were people that support it financially, right? So there's all this sense where you need the infrastructure to support learning. So I'm a big rabbi right now. They asked me to come to this place. Within 2 weeks, you guys are going to be out of money, and then you guys have to go be begging, and I'm not going to have the lights on. So he's saying, I'm not even asking the community. I could float the bill. I'm going to write you an open check right now. It's $1 million. It's everything you want. You don't have to beg for money. We don't have to wear to the community. It's going to be like the LCD screens. Everyone's going to love it.
Right. So, yeah. The money doesn't matter. It needs to be a place. What he says, a place of Torah.
Exactly. So that's what now as Amalti though, right? So his response to
before you go into that, just because another interpretation I don't think you mentioned, so I'll just mention it. But both the Maral and the Lechem Shamayim speak to this, that these people, this city, this offer that they give Rabbi Yossi. Basically, he understands what they want from him, and what they want from him is they want him to be the token religious leader, so that they can continue to do whatever it is that they're doing that is improper and immoral. And they say, listen, we'll give you lots of money. You can sit in our city, enjoy all the stuff that we do, and all
be our rubber stamp, be the figurehead.
Be our rubber stamp, and you will also get all the heavenly wrath. That because you're the one, so we don't need to worry about it. You'll be our what do they say here? You'll be our goat, like the goat that goes on Yom Kippur.
Oh, I thought you mean the greatest of all time.
The goat, yeah. The goat and the goat, yeah.
Right. So that dovetails nicely into אמרתי לו, אם אתה נותן לי כל כסף וזהב ואבנים טובות ומרגליות שבעולם, אינני דר אל במקום תורה. Okay, so first off, what we can ask is, because you just jumped and said they want us to be the figurehead, right? Because that alludes to the first question we should ask is, why is he assuming that there's no Torah there? Right? The guy just said, I have money, I have this, I identified you as a rabbi. Why are you assuming there's no Torah in my place? So one that goes back to Rome, right? He identifies that he's Roman. He's saying, like, it's not like a place where there's not the kind of Torah I want. I have zero interest in being in Rome. And that also connects to, you're saying, like, and by you being there, you would sort of sanctify Rome, right? And that would be like, oh, like, look, Rome's like a serious place, right? So he's saying, I'm not interested in that at all.
Yeah.
And I think the Maharal also has like an interpretation which says, like you just said, that he realized that they're gonna, because of all the money and all the stuff, he realized that's the essence. If they really wanted me, they would say, come, learn, teach Torah, and guess what? Well, we could pay for things. But because they started with all that, he realized that that's what matters. And that's also why he asked in the beginning, where are you from? Right? So like, so there's a sense where he realizes that there's nothing there for him, right? Yeah. Whether it's Torah scholars or whether it's because like the whole environment is wrong, it's not for him. Now, well, I'd also say that again, I just want to stress this a little more, because you could really ask, like, but why is he refusing to teach Torah? Like, let's say you could be like, okay, we won't give you the money, but like, it's a bad place. This is a place where you could like really like learn. And I think again, this leads more to the fact that it's so bad that he's saying this is a place where like I can't be involved with.
Right. This is like a trade-off that we hear about a lot. I mean, I remember, I'll just give an example. It doesn't need to be, we don't need to make it into a political discussion, but the example that I remember when Trump first went into office, there was a lot of talk about certain people joining or doing things for him. And one of the arguments was, again, maybe they were trying to justify themselves to the liberal crowd. They were saying like, what I'm doing here is I'm trying to, like, I'm going into the lion's den, but I'm actually trying to make it better. So yes, I'm going to work for Trump, who I think is not a good president in their eyes. Right. But I'm going to do work to try to make it a little less bad. So that's the argument. So maybe that's like, you could say, Rabbi Yossi, don't you think that you can make them into a better city if you go there?
So we spoke about this in earlier Pirkei, where like both where the Torah tells like you could do that, but also warns you from doing that.
Right.
Where, like going down to the dark side, it's you gotta, as Rabbi Akiva, and this is not going into the dark side, but this is going into the mystical places, warns them, right? Like don't assume, right? So they obviously like only trained Jedis could be doing that,
right? Yeah,
but maybe like we could be saying maybe he was one of them, right? Like why was he not one of these guys that could be doing this for him? But clearly he realizes his place is not for him, right?
Yeah,
and like you said, he doesn't want to be the figurehead. He wants something more. So then he mentions Tehillim. וכן כתוב בספר תהילים על ידי דוד המלך ישראל, על ידי דוד מלך ישראל, טוב לי תורת פיך מאלפי זהב וכסף, ולא עוד, אלא שבשעת פטירתו של אדם, אין מלווין לאדם לא כסף, לא זהב, ולא אבנים טובות, מרגליות, אלא תורה ומעשים טובים. Right? So first, we also realize over here when they mention David HaMelech over here, it usually it says Tehillim, right? But here it
mentions David HaMelech, yeah.
Correct. So it's mentioning David HaMelech because it's letting you know that like there's the general statement, which is and this relates back to the Zahav HaKesef, which is I don't need gold, I don't need money, I don't need any of these things. Torah is my most valuable thing. You could come and say, okay, big deal that you're saying that, big deal that you're quoting something. If I gave you $1 million in your hands, you would see that like that does value. Like there is a lot of value in that. And there's a lot of good things that you could do with that, right? I could use that to give charity, build schools. Like there's a lot of good you could do with this money. However, it's stressing that it's written by King David, who was the king, did know the value of money. Nevertheless, he himself is the one that is saying this. Right? So he is the one that's stressing that that's not what we want. And then he goes into Beshat Ptirato, right? So these are really, he's emphasizing that when someone passes away, he's leaving all the possessions behind, right? We spoke about that eerie picture of Sheldon Adelson alone with his wife during Corona, just him and her, no one else, no cameras, no pictures, right? The villa, the car, all the assets are not relevant. They don't go with him into the grave. And even though it says Ela Torah Ma'asim Tovim, right? So it's not even necessarily the good deeds, but the merits of the Torah and the good deeds, those are still things that stay with him, right? Shene'emar, like we say, בהתהלך תנחה אותך בשובך תשמור עליך והקיצות היא תסיך. בהתהלך תנחה אותך בעולם הזה, בשובך תשמור עליך בקבר, והקיצות היא תסיכך לעולם הבא. Right, so it also gives us like this 3 breakdown from Proverbs that in this world, when it says בהתהלכת, right, when a person walks, he really, like we said, we're journeying through the corridor, through the foyer, right, towards the banquet hall, towards the next world. So the Torah is really the only guide to how to teach a person to go the right path, right, and how to direct them onto the eternal, to the eternal world to come. Obviously, when I mentioned also that this is the only path, I just want to clarify that. It's not that the Gentiles don't have their own path. They do have their own path, and they too merit a place in the world to come. The 7 Noahide laws are just asking from the Gentiles to recognize that they come from God, and that they're not just doing it because they're moral people, right? And Maimonides differentiates between the wise people of the world and the righteous people of the world. And the righteous people of the world realize that they're doing these moral things because of the commandment of the Creator, right? So this would be part of us walking. Second, I see Corner Citizen. Hey, Alan, I hope you're doing well. We're in the book called Ethics of Our Fathers. This is the Mishnah. This chapter is no longer relevant to what I'm going to say, but the earlier chapter that we went through, this is very much in the spirit, in the air, when Jesus is walking around. These are things that he's aware of, things that he's studying from, things that he's quoting from as well. How to live and behave in an ethical manner. And specifically now in the last chapter, we're focusing on the acquirement and acquisition of Torah values and their merits. Right. So the number one, we said we walk from this verse in Proverbs. Right. And then once this person did actually walk, right, then when he did a good job, he walked, then he lies down, right? And then he's going to be watched over, right? So the body's obviously lying down in the grave, and the Torah is protecting him from all harm. So there's sense where, like, he's going to take care of the body, they're going to take care of the maggots, they're going to make sure it's not going to rot for when you're when the resurrection of the dead comes. So these are obviously hard and difficult things to understand. But there's a sense also b'shokvecha, right? When we say in the morning, when you lie down, lying down sort of indicates that I'm eventually going to wake back up. So even that line saying lying down is really a reference to the resurrection of the dead, again, according to some teachings. And then lastly, additionally, we have actually when you wake up, Vakitzoti tasichecha, right? And when you awake, I'm actually going to then speak to you, right? So the Torah at that point, the Torah that you study, the good deeds that you've done, they will advocate for you in the resurrection of the dead. That will be, as far as like you're filling your spirit with what's necessary to then when they hear the call of God, when they hear the trumpets, the shofar of Messiah, they will awaken, right? So here too, this is the same Torah that you've toiled over and we studied throughout this whole lifetime, right? Ultimately, the secrets are revealed to you and you attain enlightenment. And like the rest of the righteous, we are then sitting and enjoying God's radiance.
Right. It kind of connects to what we mentioned last week, that visual, that nice visual of every book that you open in this world will be added to your library in the world to come. So when you wake up in your lovely bed in the world to come, right in your room, You will have a nice, very nice set of bookshelves with a lot of nice books that you can have. And those are the things that you will be able to discuss with people that you love in that space.
Correct. I agree with that. Can you just scroll down a little more?
Yep.
ואומר, לי הכסף ולי הזהב, נאום Adonai, right? We end with the prophet Haggai, right? Which and in a sense, he's really responding back to the guy. Liya kesef Eliya zav ne'um Adonai, right? This money that you offered me, was it even really yours?
Right.
Like you weren't born with it. Ultimately, this has to do with the world that God creates, and this is basically just a deposit from Hashem, and it's not a guarantee that this money is even going to stay with you. And in a certain sense, Hashem Tzvaot, right? He's the one that if I need money and if this is what I need, he's going to make sure I get it. He's going to make sure that I'll get it some other way. I don't have to have it by, you offering to me right now. So this is why he goes back to his answer. I dwell only in the place of Torah. That I could be certain of. Any additions from the book?
And that's exactly what Midrash Shmuel says. So that it says that's why Rabbi Yossi was not impressed.
There you go.
Yeah, so
not impressed. By the way, anyone listening to this shouldn't think for a moment that, like I said, what the Midrash that the Midrash Shmuel said what I said. It is very much that's what I must have heard being taught in school or in class or when I've gone in the past, and that's why I'm mentioning it. These ideas are not my own. I am just a vessel repeating what my teachers and rabbis taught before me. So I just wanted to clarify that. Do you want to go on?
Yeah, we could.
We did some good timing this time.
We did better.
Okay,
so we have Hamisha Kinyanim.
Okay. I'll read it in English. In Hebrew, you'll take it in English?
Yeah.
חמישה קניינים קנה הקדוש ברוך הוא בעולמו, באלוהן, תורה. קניין אחד, שמיים וארץ קניין אחד, אברהם קניין אחד, ישראל קניין אחד, בית המקדש קניין אחד. תורה מניין, דכתיב, אדוני קנני ראשית דרכו, קדם מפעליו מאז. שמיים וארץ מניין, דכתיב, כה אמר אדוני השמיים, כסאי וארץ אדום רגלי. איזה בית אשר תבנו לי ואיזה מקום מנוחתי. ואומר, מה רבו מעשיך אדוני כולם בחוכמה עשית, מלאה הארץ קנייניך. אברהם מניין, דכתיב, ויברכהו ויאמר, ברוך אברהם לאל עליון, קונה שמיים וארץ. ישראל מניין, דכתיב, עד יעבור עמך אדוני, עד יעבור זו קנית. ואומר, לקדושים אשר בארץ המה ואדירי כל חפצי בם. בית המקדש מניין, דכתיב, מכון לשבטך פעלת אדוני, מקדש אדוני כוננו ידיך. ואומר, ויביאם אל גבול קודשו, הר זה קנתה ימינו. Verses are always so intense.
Yep. Okay. So God acquired 5 acquisitions in his world. These are, one acquisition is the Torah. One acquisition are the heavens and the earth. One acquisition is Abraham. One acquisition is the people of Israel. And one acquisition is the Holy Temple. The Torah, as it is written, God acquired me as the beginning of his way, before his works of yore. The heavens and the earth, as it is written, so says God, the heavens are my throne and the earth is my footstool. What house then can you build for me? And where is my place of rest? And it says, how many are your works, O God? You have made them all with wisdom. The earth is filled with your acquisitions. Which is actually one of my favorite verses. Mm-hmm. Abraham, as it is written, and he blessed him and said, blessed be Abram, Abram, to God the Most High, acquirer of heavens and earth. Israel, as it is written, till your nation, O God, shall pass, till this nation you have acquired shall pass. And it says, to the holy who are upon the earth, the noble ones, in whom is all my delight. The holy temple, as it is written, the base of your dwelling that you, God, have achieved, the sanctuary, O Lord, that your hands have established. And it says, and he brought them to his holy domain. This mount his right hand has acquired.
All right. So, 5 acquisitions. I would say the first thing we have to ask is God acquires nothing from no one because God is the maker of all things, right? So off the bat, we could say, how is it possible for God to acquire anything?
Yeah.
Right? So to that, our response would be, we're not talking about acquiring something the way we acquire something in the store, but rather sort of the way you would acquire a skill or acquire something by making something. Okay? So so for all intents and purposes, when I go to, if I'm a carpenter, right, and I take a piece of wood and I cut it and shape it and sand it and do it, like it is mine. Like I this is fully mine because I've built it in every stage and I did it in every stage. So I've acquired it in the sense.
Yeah.
So acquire shouldn't be reading things God bought, rather things God created. However, we would still ask, that's fine, Chezi, but God created everything as well. Right? So even if he didn't acquire it, obviously he acquires everything because it's all his, but he also made everything. So why are we only limiting it right now to 5? Right? So the sense is these 5 are the essence of creation, right? There's a deeper level to them, right? Their purpose is really to fulfill the goal of creation. And of course, it's revealing God's glory in our world, right? So when you want to title an object, this is Ben's acquisition, right? So there has to be value to that, and for a person to attach his name to something, it can't be worthless, right? So what are these things that God would want to attach his name to, right? So because we know God, of course, acquired everything, and God also created everything, but these are things that God knows, like, oh, if you see that, you know it's Air Jordans, right? You know that's like a God acquisition because like it's clear that that's his thing, and each one of these acquisitions, we should think about it as its value it doesn't derive from the relation to the other ones, right? Each acquisition really stands on its own. However, they're ultimately they're all connected, of course, they work together harmoniously, but each one is its own thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything in the magic book?
Yeah, the magic book, the Hasidic book. There's the Rebbe. So the Hasidic thought here is he says about how all these 5 acquisitions, they are why are we saying there are creations and there are acquisitions? He's saying that these 5 things specifically do not go a major change as they descend into this world.
They did not
do not go a major change as they descend into this world. So there's something about.
Let's put this up here for a second. I want to as we go through them now, let's go think how each one is descending into this world.
Okay.
So we have the list. So let's jump down to the verses with the list right now. We have Torah Minayin, right? So where do we learn this? Acquisition number 1, creation number 1 is Torah. Obviously that makes sense that it's a source, right? Because that's where we're saying the conversation is stemming from. This goes back to also what we were talking about with Kirk in the previous chapter. Hashem kaneni rashid darko kedem mifalav me'az. Right. So what is that in English over here?
Is the beginning. God acquired me as the beginning of his way before his works of yore.
Okay. Right. So what is the purpose for the world that's created? What's the destiny of this world? And in the sense, it's the observance of Torah, right? And the fulfillment of its commandments. Again, I explained briefly how for the Gentiles of the world, while the Torah is not theirs, that doesn't mean they could participate in the commandments which stem back to the connection of God and Torah. So like that, this is still a call out for the whole world. And that's why the purpose is true for the whole world as well, right? So the Torah is the root, and it's the wisdom from all the things, all actions begin, right? And that's believed that everything is manifested from that. And that's how God reveals everything to all its creations. And eventually everyone is also going to recognize God's sovereignty and that's why we're all going to go through that righteous path. And everything eventually goes back to the source. And the Torah here is really supposed to represent the source, right? And behind the Torah, or in the Torah, obviously, this is an element of God. So everyone will understand the foundation of the world and its existence, which ultimately is saying, be holy, so we could then see ourselves properly as akin to God and be his proper sons and unite back with the source. So that's where we want to go to when we say also Torah. I don't only mean like learn this tractate, but again, going back to the source, because recognizing that the Torah is the source, right?
Divine wisdom.
I'm sorry?
Divine wisdom.
Right. It's the divine wisdom. It's the, like we said, it's the blueprint, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the blueprint, and what the world is established based on that, and the universe really operates according to these principles and based on the laws that are written in it. That's not saying, I'm not making a scientific claim. Okay, there's another level to this, and the existence of this world and the observance of the commandments, really, it's the purpose. So we have to be able to use the world properly, and if you want to do that, you need to have the proper iOS, which are you have to have the proper operating system. Yeah. And we believe that the Torah is the proper operating system, and that's why it's definitely one of the most fundamental acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say that it's our job to dig deep and participate and wrestle with the Torah to make sure that it stays relevant and ever nourishing, because it is eternal. Sometimes it could seem to us that it's not eternal, and that means we need to dig deeper. I'm not saying that we should change it. I'm saying, but that change that happens doesn't necessarily mean that it's change that's happening by force. Rather, sometimes it could be change that's happening from better understanding. Right? The Baal Shem Tov isn't necessarily teaching us new Torah. Rather, he is re-explaining and redefining and changing jargon with regards to Torah, which to us could seem novel, but he'll just tell you this is what they were always practicing. So here too, we have an opportunity, as we are at an ever accelerating pace of things changing, to make sure we safeguard our Torah and grow together, of course, with it.
Right.
As well. That's my little point on the Torah. Shamayim ve'aretz minayin, right? How do we know about the earth, the heavens and the earth? Dechtiv, כה אמר השם, השמיים כיסי וארץ אדום רגלי. איזה בית אשר תבנו לי ואיזה מקום מנוחתי. ואומר, מה רבו מעשיך השם כולם בחוכמה עשית, מלאה הארץ קנייניך, right? The verse that you like, right? So the heavens and the earth, this is obviously very significant because the heavens and the earth are providing the framework for the Torah, right? Where will the Torah be observed and where will its holy words be realized, right? The answer is in the heavens and the earth, right? So the entire universe is really the body that houses the soul, which is the Torah. That's why the heavens and the earth, the simulation has to be played out at some place, right? So you need to build a matrix where you could actually be doing this, right?
Right. So I think, again, so when we talk about acquisitions, I think these acquisitions are things that reveal God in a more manifest way, right? So if we talk about Torah, if we talk about Shamayim va'aretz,
yeah,
right? So the Rebbe here talks about how when we see a tree growing out of the land, it's for us, it's the closest thing that we can get from nothing to something, right? From like the smallest thing ever to a giant tree that lasts for generations, right? Mm-hmm. These are reflections. These are things that for us connect us to something higher, that in other things, apart from maybe these 5 different acquisitions, it's harder for us to see the essence.
I hear that. And that's why, again, right, like you said, there's a difference between the heavens and the earth, right? So there's a sense where like, the heavens really represent the higher, the more spiritual realms, right? And which, are channeling the blessings of God, down to the earth where actions could actually happen, right? Where these things are actually manifested on the ground, where like theory could be practiced into reality,
right?
Which is in a sense why, when the snake says, eat from this tree, right? Because if you want to actually experience the good and evil in this world, right, that has to happen. There's a very controversial statement, because you have to realize that the snake ultimately is created by God, right?
Yeah.
And like you have to ask, like, why was this created? So the Zohar gives an example where he says, when the deer wants to give birth, right, but it's scared because of the pain, a snake comes out and bites it on the ankle, and because of fear, the baby comes out. And the sense was where the Zohar is alluding to, where this was a necessary fall that had to happen if you want to, let's say, participate in, if you want to have the difference between heaven and earth, you have to come to earth and experience how that actually, what that looks like. And then that connects to Midrashim that Adam and Chava actually wanted that, right? They wanted to experience that fall. They didn't want to just experience it as sort of fully experienced and understood. Rather, they wanted the challenge as well. And we spoke about that a little also with when Shlomo Melech talks about Hevel, right? How the Torah also, like at a certain level, his Torah becomes sort of like pointless. It's Hevel because I fully understand it right now, and I'm looking for the next level. I want something else. So in this case, he's looking for Torah Mashiach, and Adam and Eve's level, they wanted to participate in, life.
Yeah. Cool.
But again, controversial take. Yeah. Right. So those were the heavens, and obviously we know that it's impossible to confine God, right, in like the 4 cubits, even of the temple, right? It can't ultimately Hashem's glory can't be in one specific place. And that's why we're saying that's why the heavens is quote unquote large enough as far as its vastness, right? So you could say that it's says God's throne, and that's why the footstool is really has to do with things that are on the ground, which are like his creatures, his creations. That would be considered his footstool. First of all, there's many levels of interpretation of this, and we're not going into like all of Ezekiel's visions, but there's another symbol. You could also see the throne symbolizes like royalty, governance, and authority, obviously in the world, and that's why on earth, when we are dealing with things that are spiritually are harder for us to attain, and things are much lower, and God's presence is a lot more concealed in this world. That's why it's considered like a footstool, because it's lower and you don't necessarily see the full picture. Now, some would even argue that the concealment of God is really what proves that God exists. Like he's so concealed that it's obviously that he's there. How else could you explain like this wonderful world and then also not see him there? But like because this pain and because this darkness that we have, we recognize that we're still within that retraction. And again, like we're seeing the gaping hole. So it's obviously that something is supposed to be there.
Right.
Hey, Alan.
Hey, what's going on, Ezzy?
What's going on? Thank God.
Hey, Ben. Nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah, I just had a question. What the relationship for non-Hebrews is, because there's sort of the Noahide discussion, and then also the separation of traditions. So I'm sure this is a topic that's come up a lot, and it's sort of a meta topic. But what the order of operations in those, or a way of thinking from your perspective, would be for those.
Can you try to define it a little more, if you don't mind, like the difference you're trying to tease out?
Yeah. Well, it seems like there is a relationship that you've pointed to that all people have with God, and then yet there's a special relationship that the Hebrews have, and that's in a lot of ways that's that's okay in that that these other traditions will exist, have to exist, or God allows them to exist, or whatever phrase we want to use. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, even those other traditions have a relationship with the one God. So what exactly is that relationship, and how do their traditions and their unique parts of their cultures relate to God, and how does God's mandates relate to them?
Fantastic question, which is like a longer conversation, but I'll just give you, let's say, on one foot, basically, that and you could find different interpretations according to some rabbis. I lean on a specific viewpoint, which is, let's say, more pluralistic and understanding, but of course backed up by plenty of heavy hitters, so to speak, rabbinical rabbis and scripture. But there are many, many verses where God is talking to the nations of the world and talks to them as if, and recognizing the difference between Israel and them, but saying that I have a different relationship with them. At some point, he also gets to calling Assyria my handiwork and Egypt my people. And usually my people is reserved to the people of Israel, but he even calls Egypt my people. And there's a sense where all the nations of the world are, and we say, sorry, I'll take a step back. We say in the Torah, there's 70 facets of the Torah, 70 faces of the Torah, 70 different interpretations or viewpoints of the Torah. And this is true also about the nations, which is there are also 70 different interpretations. So 70 is symbolic of different pathways towards God and understanding God as well. And you even see this with Naaman and Elisha in the Bible, when Elisha takes care of Naaman, and Naaman says, "I'm going to go back to my king, and I'm going to continue doing his idol worship, but I want to know that I'm good with you and God. Now that I realize that the truth is with you, is that okay?" And he says yeah, you go and be blessed. Continue your cultural work now that you recognize the one true God. So I believe that many of the religions, and definitely, let's say, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, all of them are ultimately going back to the source. And traditions got mixed up along the way. And the sense is that there's a divine spark in all these religions. Maimonides talks about how we can't deny the fact that Christianity and Islam are clearly divine manifestations of God's will. And he defines them as path makers for the Messiah, right? And because of their unique relationship, there's a lot of literature about the whole unique relationship Ishmael has with God. There are interpretations that also look at Christianity as was a possibility of a Messiah, son of Joseph. There's two different topics. There's Messiah, son of Joseph, and Messiah, son of David. These are two different periods and stages in redemption. So having said all that, I'm zooming back in right now. God says there's going to be other prophets. We know the story of Bilam as well. So there are other conversations happening with the divine. There are other sequences happening with the divine. Judaism and God's election of the Jews as a priestly class is there to say, I'm looking to build a house, which we'll call humanity. Everyone's invited inside. In a house, there's a chimney. If you want to breathe air well, comfortably, the chimney needs to be cleaned every now and then. The Jews, the Hebrews, are the chimney cleaners. That doesn't mean they get the penthouse. It doesn't mean that they have first dibs necessarily on the fridge. It just means they are the most skilled in making sure the chimney's clean, so there can be proper conversation with the divine. Now, what we believe is that the other prophets or other religions, assuming they have a divine true spark in them, that their frequency, and I use the terminology of, let's say, AM and FM, they're playing on AM. And it's okay for them to be playing on AM. Judaism, for the last, thousands of years, have been participating with FM. Many times they screw up. Many times they throw out the radios. Sometimes they were completely kicked off the frequency and left off their land. But they only participate with FM. That's why there's no masks. There's no mediators. There's no sun. There's no nothing. There's only the direct line. That we, however, recognize that other nations of the world have AM. And in AM, you do use Brahman. And you do use Vishnu. And you do use Jesus. And you might need other vessels that are allowing you to give you that message. At some point, we hope, as the knowledge of God spreads along the world, you could look at that as far as the internet or conversations or the fact that we're even speaking right now. We hope that as we could see ourselves better by also understanding and seeing and speaking to the other religions out there, we could offer them tools to tweak their frequency. And now, what I believe in this, the rabbis that I follow and my work with the Noahide movement is, there's a beautiful, unique language and tapestry that God has presented the world. Different languages, different colors. So there is something divine with how Christians worship that's unique to them. There's something divine and unique to how the Hindus worship. Now, there is, through many, many thousands of years, levels, we'll call them the klipa, the shell of idolatry, or the shell of impurity. Impurity doesn't mean bad, evil. It means not pure, as in not the cleanest frequency. We are here to offer tweaks. So the Hindu comes and says, okay, this is my theological suitcase. The great rabbis, I'm not one of them, would come and say, okay, these 7 vadas, they're great. This, like the fact that you do Kundalini yoga and say the phrase one of God's sequences names is that same spelling, We have that in Kabbalah as well. So that's fine. Keep on doing that. That's not strange. That's all good. The third eye, we have that too. We have the phylacteries that we put on that is supposed to be between your eyes. That's also good. That's fine. There are things that we should tweak. I don't know if we need to necessarily use this imagery anymore. I don't know if we necessarily need this temple idea anymore. Now, after that, go do your thing. Come up to the temple, pray to God. It's going to be very strange for your whole community to suddenly start praying to God the way Chezi prays to God. It's going to be out of whack. It's going to be very confusing for you. So instead, I tell you, come to the temple, and you guys are all going to be with your saris and your dot doing your thing. But we've already recognized that it's all oriented to the same thing. So it's pure speech. Pure speech doesn't mean we're speaking the same language. It means the concepts are the same. So I would say that's sort of the universal vision that I want to partake in, that I believe our sages and our rabbis were pushing us to. And I think we are now in our day and age starting to see percolation, seedlings of that type of conversation. And to me, TLC is a data point of something like that, because before I want to presume that I could go to the Christians and tell them, hey, this is the word of God, I am noticing that the Christians themselves are saying, hey, what are we doing? Who are we? How do we connect this? And that doesn't mean you're doubting your relationship with God. It means that I see you talking to Paul and Paul talking to Sam, and those conversations are an indication that clearly there's a bigger story that we're all trying to get to. So it could be hubris of me to say like that I know the truth. Obviously, I'm speaking within my context, but that's the context. I don't know if that was a good explanation, but
yeah, no, it's very helpful. Yeah, I just wanted to jump on, and thanks for hosting this. I appreciate it. That was the one part where I sort of wanted some clarification, but the rest of it, just getting as much background on this as possible, because I don't know this book. But yeah, thanks for the clarification.
My pleasure, and feel free to ask any other questions. And if I don't know if what I sounded also sounds like offensive. I understand it if it might, but like as you have to realize, like as far as Jews, like what I'm saying is fairly controversial. As far as like within my circles would be like why are you offering like a smorgasbord of like religions basically to everyone and telling like, so that's difficult for some people to think of. Like I would say, after this, clarification happened, so to speak, this theological kosher stamp, your church doesn't need to get destroyed, and like the concept of Mary doesn't have to get destroyed. You just would have to see like, how do I still use those concepts and fill them with meaning still? Yeah. But again,
no, it's all. No, this is all very helpful, and I think part of the having good conversations in TLC and elsewhere is actually understanding where people are really coming from. I think as much as the similarities are important to point out, it's also important to point out the differences and navigating those. So yeah, no, I mean, I just want to know what you're thinking, what you believe. So please don't sugarcoat anything, because at the end of every stream.
At the end of every stream, usually I do like a sinister laugh. I do like this with my hands, and I become like very sneaky. But like I don't let anyone see that. So like, I put like my Gargamel.
Dang, I logged off right before the end.
Exactly.
Yeah. I had that giant pile of Bibles that were covered in gasoline behind you. I was like, what are you doing with that?
Usually, Judaism is, historically doesn't evangelize. I don't like to using the term like to evangelize. I'm not going to people and saying like become a Noahide. However, I do think we moved on to, there were things that were forbidden to do. You were forbidden to write down the Torah. It was an oral Torah. And eventually Judah the Prince comes and sees like, yeah, this is not working. No one's remembering anything. Everything, the temples are being destroyed. We got to write it down. We write it down. And then we said like, okay, well, you can never get paid to teaching Torah. And then we said like, okay, but no one's teaching it. And these teachers are going on strike. So like, we're going to have to pay them. And then there was a prohibition for teaching Torah to women. And we're like, okay, but that's sort of backwards. And like, Devorah the prophetess, Esther, Miriam, Sipporah, like how about women can't study? And we're like, okay. The last one was you can't teach Torah to Gentiles. And I'm done with that. We're done. Now we're moving on to like next phase. And the phase also has to do with the name change in Israel itself. We have 3 different identity markers. We have Jacob, and that is our national, that is our religious identity. We have Judah, and that is our national identity, and we have Jeshurun, and Jeshurun is our universal identity. And I am, and this also ultimately goes into politics as well, where like I think Israel is not like the state of Israel is not manifesting itself properly into that role. Jacob will call it like the hell of Zionism and it's Satan's work, and I'll say like no, Zionism are the seedlings of the Messianic era. However, we as in the Jews of the world and specific Israelites need to realize the weight of responsibility we have and manifest it into the most amazing place. We are not doing so. We're not doing so right now. And the fact that we're still fighting with our cousins in this biblical historical battle, to me, has flavors of bigger things, more than just like geopolitical questions. So we're in exciting times. All right.
With that also, I think I ran out of time, so I will need to